and welcome to episode 20 of International Expansion Explained. My guest this afternoon is the one and only Mr. Fred Copestake, who... Is that feedback from you?
No, I'm totally...
Okay.
Yeah.
Somewhere I can hear it echoing. I'm not quite sure where. Fred, for the last 22 years, has travelled around the world 14 times, visiting 36 countries, and has also worked with over 10,000 salespeople. He's identified the things that really make a difference in modern selling and put them into his books, Selling Through Partnering Skills and Hybrid Selling. These ideas form the basis of his work with sales professionals involved in complex B2B sales to develop their approach and ensure that it's up to date and has maximum impact. He believes that people get better through learning and sharing, and that with better collaboration, we can really make a difference. Fred's also the host of the Sales Today podcast. So if you're not subscribed already, then go over there and subscribe after we've finished on here.
After we finished on here.
After we finished on here. Welcome to the show, to the madness. I'm not quite sure what to call it ever. Welcome to the pod show.
We'll start it as a show and we'll see whether it descends into madness or not.
I have another question. For anybody who's listening, are you getting an echo? Because I'm hearing everything twice, which is a little bit strange. Amia's here.
No, I'm hearing absolutely fine. I'm only hearing yours up, so we're good.
Okay. Amia is concerned that expanding internationally means that we went on a business trip and we ate too much.
It has happened, Amir. More than one occasion.
Yeah. It's happened to me as well. Anyway, my first question to you would be, tell us a little bit about how you got into international business and how you landed at the point that you are today.
It was my first job, actually. First job was in international business, or my first proper job. I sometimes say that my first job was when I was 8 years old working in a Victorian mill, but that's like a different story completely. But my first real job out of university was in international business. I finished my last exam on a Friday. I started work on a Monday.
Oh, wow.
My mates thought this was hilarious because they were all partying, but I then thought it was far funnier because 2 weeks after that I was on a plane to Spain, because that's why I'd got the job, which is to help them launch a product over there. As a Spanish speaker, they needed me for that. So all my professional working career has been involved in international business, international sales in some way, shape or form. So yeah, that was some years ago, working with a company called IMI Norgren, selling pneumatic components. So yeah, I love working with people who make stuff. So I've worked with all sorts of organizations, and again in all sorts of countries, 36 different places. I've sold or delivered sales training. So yeah, it's been great. It's been great
impressive.
fun.
Although actually my first job, I also started out in a completely different field from now, but it was still international sales. It was filters of all different kinds for different kinds of engines. So hydraulics, oil filters, everything from like chain stores through to cruise ships. and tanks and all kinds of heavy duty applications. So quite different to food and beverage, which is where I tend to be these days.
Yeah, I was so at one stage when I was with Norgren, I was business development manager for Western Europe. Oh, yes,
Sounds posh.
sounds very good. Yeah, go to cold countries and see if you can help them sell more. Fred was probably more like what it was, but yeah, FRLs, filter regulator lubricators, which when you put one of those in your hand luggage, they look like a bomb. It's a real
Yes.
pain to get through. To get through,
Yes.
even then when security wasn't as strong, these things look just like a bomb. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was good fun. Even when you have to explain, they say, "What's that for?" Well, it kind of cleans air and then puts oil in it, and they're like, "Why?" Because then machines work better. Yeah, go on then. Fine, carry on.
Okay. So before we do descend into just telling stories for this, I'm going to dive straight into the difficult questions, or maybe not difficult questions. I read, because I'm the kind of person who does their homework, I read on your website, partner intelligence can be described as a set of skills that help translate bold promises into true value. As such, it's something that's extremely useful in today's world of professional sales. But my question to you is, how do we arrive at a good definition of value when we're working internationally and every country has their own thing that they're actually interested in with our products?
Easy. So that's the easiest question to answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, customer defines the value. It's
Yeah.
like beauty, it's in the eye of the beholder. Yeah, the customer defines the value. That's our job as a salesperson, somebody working internationally. What do they see as being beneficial, useful for them? Okay, that's what we've got to focus on, and we've got to work towards driving those results, those outcomes. Doesn't matter where you are. I could be selling down the
Yeah.
road, I could be selling other side of the world. Customer defines the value.
And do sales people recognize that how they can sell their value, or do you find that that is something that is quite tough for them to be flexible on, or where companies push them into delivering a unified message across all their markets when actually they need to be focusing on different things?
This is my job, Catherine. No, it's helping people understand that, because quite often companies are saying, right, this is where we're valuable, and that's great because that will be the starting point. So, but go and say this and impose this, that won't be effective. And again, it doesn't matter if you're in your home country and you're saying that, or if you're sending someone other side of the world, as I've said. It's okay, it's a starting point, it's a value proposition, but we've got to understand what makes sense for them. So again, it's the same kind of thinking. And a lot of companies do get quite rigid and say, no, we must say it like this. This is how we do it. Okay, well, that won't work because
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah.
sales full stop. Yeah, it doesn't matter where you are.
And not only that, but what I do think that a lot of companies also forget is that they're doing channel sales, but the channel sales partner is not their customer at the end of the day. Their customer is the person who is the final end person who actually, or company who buys that product and uses that product. And so, realistically speaking, if I have a channel sales partner, we're on the same side. Of course, he has his own interests that he is wanting to pursue with our business connection. But at the end of the day, we're both looking to increase sales to the final customers, whoever they might be, depending on the industry that we're in, don't they?
Yeah, and I think this is where we can add massive value to the channel partner, which is helping them to sell our stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many times you've talked about this as being one of the biggest mistakes people make in channel sales, probably every week, which is there you go, you're my partner, off ski, sell my stuff for me.
Yeah.
Well,
Here's
if
a
people
price list.
price list and brochure, off you go.
Yeah, off you go.
Now, if they don't know how to present it, how to ask the questions, how to work with that end customer to understand what that value is for them, it's going to fall down and
Yeah.
it's not going to be successful. And then we're going into arguments about blah, blah, and there you go, the partnership, the relationship breaks down. Whereas
Yeah.
being partner ready, giving them the best opportunity to be successful. That's one of the smartest things we can do in channel sales, I think, and one that's often missed.
Not only, I mean, it's not only, let's say, in our benefit directly in terms of giving them tools in the hand, it's also that question of strengthening the relationship, and you're also binding, motivating the sales team, aren't you? That you are the principal who's actually coming to them, offering them tools to help them do their job well, that gives them the opportunity to be successful and to earn more money for themselves as well. It's not just for the company benefit, it's also a way of deepening those relationships and making sure that you've got a better long-term chance at success in those markets.
Yeah, you can win hearts and minds. And then this is what I did for a big chunk of my career, which was when I was running the Corona Academy. I think when Corona was a good thing, yeah, Mexican beer with a lime in it.
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. My job was to go to the partner countries and work with their sales team to train the sales team in how to sell this particular beer, because there was a special way to do that, which is pulling demand through. So it wasn't about presenting product. Yeah, it's golden liquid in a bottle. Yeah, bottle see through. Great, nice brand. Okay, but there was a distinct style or way in which you should engage the customer to bring consumers in with promotions, etc. That we help the salespeople be successful. So they went, well, we're going to go off and sell Corona then. And
Yep.
of course, the principal, the distributor, was like, well, this is great. Yeah, the guys, we don't really mind what they sell. If they're going to sell Corona, well, happy days, you know.
Yep.
So that was a smart way, as well as getting all the agreements right, to really impact how to be successful in that country, is to help them to sell.
Yeah.
So I had to travel all around a bunch of countries and tell people how to sell beer. You know, tough job, but someone had to do it, as they say.
Show, not tell, or
Well, yeah, the sampling was always a part. Whatever you're doing, there at some stage in the demonstration, we do have to taste.
Let's say I spent 18 years selling infant formula. The tasting wasn't such a big element in that constellation.
I think I might have done better there.
Yeah, but I'm a non-beer drinker anyway, so I wouldn't have been helped with that. So
There we go. Win-win.
but yeah, but I mean, I think however your commercial agreement with any kind of partner that you have, one of the biggest factors of success is, like you said, winning the hearts and minds of your extended sales team that you have at your channel partner. Because if you can get them to focus on your product rather than a different product that they have in their portfolio, it can only be good for you. I mean that in a good way, in the sense of they focus on yours because they know that they can get good results with it, and that you're supporting them to get those results and helping them on their way.
Yeah, I mean, I came up with a little formula for this, for helping it.
Yeah.
Extra. I love an acronym. Anybody who knows me and trained with me, it's acronym city, because it's how I remember stuff. And the acronym is extra. And so
Okay.
E was for earnings. If they're not going to earn anything from it, then they're not going to be interested. End of the day, we
Yeah.
have to get that right. The X was excitement. So it's got to be interesting. It's got to be fun. We've got to do something which is going to set us apart and really sort of capture the imagination. Now, we were sponsoring super bikes and DJ contests and all this sort of thing. So that was pretty easy. T for training. Training. Give them the information that they can use to be good, including the sales skills around that particular product.
Absolutely.
I was for results. So give them a little target, give them something that they could then be kind of rewarded on. So again, we'd put
Yep.
little initiatives and little kind of competitions and stuff for the salespeople, which was the A, which is achievement. So yeah, the kind of the little goals and stuff, which was the you could argue, which is, as the brand owner, we shouldn't be having to incentivize the salespeople. But we thought, well, no, it does make sense to do that, and it's
Yep.
easy for us to do it. You know, superbike tickets, or the stuff that's exciting, we could use as the rewards for hitting the results because of the training, and you're going to earn from doing it anyway. So it all wrapped up really nicely, and we kept sort of sales teams dead interested in working with us.
Yeah. No, I fully agree that I think that some of those seemingly small steps are the ones that differentiate between a company who is having a mediocre time with their channel partners and a company who's really successful. And on the surface of it, if you just look at both of them from the outside, you might think that they're both doing the same thing. But when you actually go dig down into the details, then you realize that it's actually the partnership skills of both of those client or both of those parties that are making that successful.
Absolutely. I mean, again, thinking back to there, the Corona country managers, they were all over their countries. I mean, literally, they were traveling so much. They got this concept that I often talk about, which is that organizations don't partner, people do. And so
Yes.
they would really make sure they were there, they were present. The MD was on a plane all the time. But when he left, they gave him a plane seat for his leaving present because he travelled that much. He was hardly ever in the office in Belgium because he knew
Yeah.
he had to be around and about and kind of using those people skills, those partnership skills, which I've now come
Yes.
across as being sort of a validated, verified set of things that we can deliberately use to build those business relationships.
Yeah. No, I think that I've spoken to so many exporting companies since the end of the pandemic who've said to me, pre-corona, we had this great partner in whatever country it might have been, and since that time they seem to have gone off a bit, and I don't know whether it's because they've had a change in their teams or whatever it is. And when you actually dig down into it, they're not investing in the personal relationships. They're not investing in that foundation of actually doing the strong business. They're only looking at the transactional side of the business and wondering then why things are not moving forward in quite the same way that they used to, because maybe they've saved all of the travel budgets and the companies are not used to spending that money on travel anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, that's interesting that that's happened. Look, we made loads of more money, and now they're going to start to see that tailing off because it's okay. We understood why you couldn't come and see us now,
Yes.
but now you're not. Do you really care about us? It's those kind of almost intangibles,
Yeah.
but we have to get that right.
And so where do you start when you are talking about partnering skills, and you're talking about, is you look at a sales team and you're trying to evaluate how good they are at this partnering relationship building that they absolutely need in order to do the business. Where do you start? Which are the attributes that you're looking at or that you are looking to train, help them to develop, etc.?
So a couple of years ago, probably about 5 years ago now, because the book was out in 2020. So yeah, no, a bit more, probably about 7 years ago, I came across this concept of PQ.
Mm-hmm.
Easiest description is it's the lesser known cousin of IQ and EQ.
Right.
Most people will know IQ, few people will
Yeah.
know EQ, which is emotional intelligence, whereas PQ are partnering intelligence, partnering skills. And so this isn't something I've made up. A guy called Steve Dent did a load of research on this back in the late 80s, early 90s, probably the same time that Goldman's doing all the EQ stuff. Because he was working on these companies which were building these alliances, when the airlines were coming together and all that sort of thing. And so they were wanting to get better at it, and they commissioned him to do this. Again, long story short, it's him that I actually take that expression, organizations don't partner, people do,
Yeah.
from, because he looked at what was going on. The best partnerships were based on people skills. And they're
Yeah.
skills, they're things that we can understand, we can measure, and then we can do things to develop. And he came up with these 6 elements. So the
Mm-hmm.
6 elements very quickly. And these apply to everybody in sales, by the way. That's how I use it now.
Yeah.
But first one, trust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Well, it makes sense. We're not going to argue that. I don't need to explain that one. If we can't really trust somebody and they can't trust us, why would we work with them? Yeah.
Although,
Second,
having said that, trust is not that easy. You've still got to know, how do I build trust in Argentina versus, say, Uzbekistan? It's
Yeah, there's
The
some
basic
cultural
components are the
nuances.
same,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the way of getting there and the timelines and so on can be a bit different.
Yeah, no, the application, but we should be looking to try to establish that rather than
Yeah.
thinking, yeah, okay, it doesn't really matter, does it? No, it does. It's really important, and work out how to do it in that place.
Yeah.
We then look at win-win. Yeah, mutual benefit. There's got to be something for us both in this partnership.
Yeah.
Otherwise, kind of what's the point? Again, we've talked about win-win in sales for a long time. So again, understanding what is the win for the other person, what is your win, and making sure you do talk about that. Don't just
Yeah.
assume that they know it. Third one is being comfortable with interdependence. Interdependence, yeah. And the way I say this to sales, I know it's a good one, isn't it? Like, yes.
It's the one that sets so many salespeople's, not so much backs up, but it makes them feel very uneasy, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of salespeople want to be independent, lone
Yeah.
wolf, off doing my own thing, leave me
Yeah.
alone. I don't want to. I don't need to get away. No, but when we talk about interdependence, the way I explain it, the short version is, if you think that your success is my success, then you are on the right path. Yeah, work out what does that person's success look like. What's their win, and work towards that. And
Yeah.
in doing so, remember that you're not going to be able to achieve that on your own. You'll have your home team,
Yep.
who often you're going to need to lean on, but yeah, use them. You've got the distributors team. There's when everybody comes together and we can kind of relinquish control a little bit to let them do the stuff they need to do, and then
Yep.
people do stuff in the way that they do it. Might not be the same as you, but if it's going to get it done, great. Then that's we're on the right track.
Yeah.
We then talk about transparency. Yeah, so Steve Dent originally talked about self-disclosure and feedback. I now could talk about transparency. I think it's a bit more of a current word. People sort of
Yeah.
get it. It's the same thing. It's about sharing information. It's about being open, being honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, Todd
But
Capone. You've got to talk about Todd Capone when you talk about
self-disclosure
transparency.
sounds a bit, it sounds a bit weird, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It sounds a
it
bit
does. It's like
artificial.
so you've already got to get right into my hand. Well, no, but you've got to give enough information about
Yeah.
yourself and about what it is you're doing, how you're doing it. And like I say, Todd,
Yeah.
he talks about leading with a flaw, and sometimes saying, look, this is something that isn't
Yep.
quite right, or we're not as good at. But if
Yep.
these are the other things that are important to you, then absolutely we should be working together. But
Yep.
let people make that decision. Be transparent about how you're doing things. And again, that's counterintuitive to a lot of salespeople. Of, oh no, you want to tell them that? No, absolutely you do, and it's a massive trust builder.
Yes.
It's a
Yep.
really big trust
Yep.
builder. The fifth element is comfort with change. Now, we're pretty much asking people to do stuff differently. I mean, look, you don't sell this product before, you're going to sell it now. Well, you're already asking people to change here. Yeah. So, but if we've got to be comfortable with change as well, because otherwise, what right have we got to ask other people to? And understanding how change is. Change is difficult. Most humans don't really
Yeah.
like it. Some people love it
Yeah.
and embrace it. It's like, yes, exciting. Others are a little bit more reticent. Others push it away. But understanding how change is received and where people are on that change curve and how you can adapt your communication, again, you can move things forward so much faster. Of course, you're excited about going off and selling in Brazil. It's a massive opportunity to you. Come on, let's get in there. And our product's awesome. Now, the Brazilians might be, well, we've not really sold this before. The sales team haven't seen this thing. They're kind of pushing it away a little bit. Yeah,
Yep.
they then start to get their head around it. But that surprise or even anger sometimes, well, why do we have to go and sell this one? We like the other one we have to do. And you're bouncing up and down, getting excited about it. Then there's a bit of a mismatch. So again, by understanding reactions to change, we can just move things so much better.
Try introducing a new CRM system into any sales team, and then you'll see how open they are to change.
Any country in the world. It really doesn't matter. Yeah, new way of reporting, taking an old product away. Well, we loved selling that.
Yes.
Well, didn't actually
The
sell
sales
any.
figures look a bit different, but that's why we've delisted it.
No, we loved it. It was really, we were about to sell tons. Yeah, but that's a natural. I mean, we're giggling a little bit, but that's a natural reaction to human change, and we need to understand that there could be some reticence. And of course, status quo carrying on doing the same thing is usually the biggest competitor. And then the last element is future orientation. So it's doing stuff based on looking towards where we want to get to. So what's that goal? What's that vision? So what are the steps to get there? And making decisions based on looking forward, rather kind of going backwards, going, yeah, we tried that before, or we've done this thing and it didn't work. And it's, well, okay, no, it's different now. We've got a different set of circumstances. World's a different place. Changes every day. Let's move towards it with this kind of future focus.
And that can be linked into also a lot of the kind of company culture things, doesn't it? Because if you've got a sales team where half of them are always, if there's a huge rotation in the sales team, then it's hard to have that. It's really hard to have that kind of future focus, because everybody's just looking at what can I get now in terms of personal benefit. And
here and now. So I mean, those elements of PQ, and I mean, it starts at the top. It starts at the top. I mean, I'm talking about the sales team, and I use it with sales teams and encourage them to bake that into any sales process. But if you're looking at bringing on a new distributor, we should be thinking about those elements and making sure, do we fit? Are we demonstrating that for a start? Are they? So that then we're going to get this stuff right at the head office level, for want of a better word, and then that united front is going to come through, and we're going to be in a better place to be successful.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if I'm working with, let's say, companies who've not really exported systematically before, who've maybe only done a little bit of spot business, that one inquiry from Timbuktu that they had where they delivered 2 pallets, a year ago, and they call themselves an exporter since then. It's so important to get the buy-in from the board and from the people at the top to really recognize that, it's got to be the whole company who's pulling together. It's not just the sales department. It's got to be all the back office departments, and that the sales department will be that bridge to a channel partner on the other side of the world, and that everybody together is aimed at selling product to whoever is the end consumer or customer for that client.
Well, that's one of the big elements of partner readiness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are we sorted at home to even be doing this stuff?
Yeah.
It's all very well saying, hey, Fred, here's your Amex. You speak Spanish. Off you go to Spanish-speaking countries. Sell some of our stuff. Happy days.
Yep.
Not a problem.
What's the limit on the Amex? And off I go.
It was one of the first bits of advice I had from my boss, is like, don't get sacked for fiddling your expenses. It's the little, if you're going to get sacked, do something decent. That's what he said to me. But
make sure it was worth it.
Real life. Yeah, it's what happened is that you go and you do stuff and you'd set up the agreements and you'd come back. And this is me with hindsight now. We weren't ready. We weren't ready because the company didn't understand. It's like, we're trying to ring the Spanish. They won't answer the phone. I'm like, yeah, because it's lunchtime. What do you mean it's lunchtime? They all go out for lunch. Oh, they shouldn't. That's not really your call for a company sat in the middle of Staffordshire to make. That's what they do. That's just like a silly example, but we weren't ready to understand that's why do they need literature in Spanish? Because people in Spain speak Spanish, and that's what they want to read stuff that they can understand. Being silly examples, but true, and being partner ready is absolutely key. Yeah. So that when you go out, everything is going smoothly, and the partner's thinking, "Hey, this is awesome. You're dead easy to deal with."
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that I see companies underestimating all the time, the amount of preparation that they ought to be doing. And it's that kind of, if you're going to cut down a tree, you need to spend 90% of your time sharpening your saw and getting all the pieces ready to go, so that when the time is actually there, that you actually go out into the market and do that job, that you are actually ready to do it, and that you as a company are capable of having an adult relationship, if you like, with another company that's going to be a mutually beneficial one.
Yeah. And And even as part of the recruitment process, set up well, showing you're set up well. This is how we work. This is what you'll get when you work with us. Here are the training programs for salespeople have. Here are the incentives. Here's how orders are processed. Here's how you can send key customers over to visit us. And
Yep.
wow,
Yep.
you've got your stuff together here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that makes me an attractive proposition. So you're going to have to work quite hard because I've now got options in the market. I'm not just going to say to the first person who comes along, oh yeah, can I be a distributor? Oh yeah, thank goodness, I need to run over there. Yeah, no, I'm going out with this pack to say, hey, look, this is what it looks like working for us. Is this something that's interesting for you? And that's the way it will be done for our success because we've worked it out. That's how it'll have to be. Yeah.
Yeah. And Amir wants to know how important it is for the partner at the other end to be as involved and helpful to allow you to be successful. I mean, I would say that is part of the skill of picking the right partner in the first place, who is also invested in making a success out of the business and who's also prepared to allow their sales team to work according to your values, principles, training, etc., and all of the tools that you can give them in the hand, that they're prepared to support you with that to make that success.
I just say it takes two to tango.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's actually put something in the comments as well about Argentina. So we seem to be going very Latin American today. That's great. No, so absolutely, yes. It's almost like, how can you be if they're not? And I've been in a situation where we've tried to partner with somebody and they didn't really want to, or it wasn't that they didn't want to, because they wanted the agreement, which is a slightly different thing. We're on to a different
brand
subject now.
sitter.
Was that what you call it? I call it
Well, depends on the day
magpie.
of the week, but yeah, but
Yeah.
the people who collect trophies for outside the CEO's office or the conference room wall,
or for somebody else not to have it.
Yeah.
They don't want a competitor to have it. And so we kind of had that once, and it was very difficult. So whenever we were trying to do something, they would always throw up a smoke screen. Oh no, we're not allowed to do that in this country. You can, we know you can. Oh, this, oh this, oh this. It was always something else. Or this is the way that we sell. This is how it works. We know it does because it does in every single other country. It doesn't in this one. And like, when there are regional differences, but when in 100 and whatever other countries it does work like that, theirs is the only one that does. It's like, no, come on. It was incredibly painful, stressful.
No,
and
usually
not very successful.
Usually that is just such a red flag, isn't it, when somebody starts saying to you that doesn't work at all here, when they're not prepared to actually listen to you in any way, shape or form, and to at least say, I can't do that one-to-one, but if we turn it by 30 degrees and paint it green, then it'll work. Or we could try it, or you know what I mean? At least for them not to meet you halfway. And I think that for a lot of companies, they really ought to, they should just wait longer to find the right partner. It may be a harsh thing to say, but sometimes it's better to have no partner in a market if you're not in the market already, to wait until you really find the right partner, or at least a partner who is 75% the right partner, rather than going in with somebody who you can see from the beginning is going to be really transactional, and who doesn't fit well with your company values and way of selling, because making a partner change at a later point in time costs you so much in sales and nerves and energy as well.
It's a nerves and energy. I remember this scenario. It was really tough. It was really tough in the end, and just nobody liked it.
No.
Everybody hated the whole process all of the time. It was pointless. And of course, we didn't sell we sold some stuff, but not nowhere near as much as what we probably could have done if we'd all been aligned, if we'd have all sung off the same hymn sheet, if we'd have done stuff in the prescribed way, a way we should together. It was not so much fun, that one.
Well, no,
it's not all just jumping around on planes and having a sort of happy life, is it?
No, it isn't. But at the end of the day, like you said, business is done between people, And on the one hand, we might say there's noughts so queer as folk, at least, you know, in the UK we might say that. But trust is such a core component. So if you don't have trust in somebody that they're going to do the right thing with your brand or with your company, then it is very hard to work with them. And if you can't bear to have dinner with somebody, then they're probably not the right person. They're probably not the right partner for you in the long term. You can do some stuff in the short term, you can get some results, but it's not that deep kind of level of partnership, is it? If you can't even sit down and have a respectful, okay, we don't really like each other, but we have ideas that we can exchange kind of relationship, then it gets difficult.
It does. I mean, it depends how big the partner is. I mean, if you're talking the principal and yourself as the kind of country manager, then, you know, maybe you take yourself out of the equation, but you're probably in that role for a reason. If it's probably one of the team, that could just be a personal thing. But yeah, you're right. If you're going to have to spend time with them, you have to be working together. That's the whole point of partnering, you know. Otherwise, we just call it business thing or something different. The ostriches never say anything, truthfully. Love that. Love
Yeah.
that.
Joe has a question for us. He would like to know if you can turn around, let's say, a partner's attitude and therefore results.
Oh, I always think, well, if the contract is being brandished, as in this is what we said we were going to do, and it's probably too late.
Yep.
The only people who are going
Yep.
to benefit from that are lawyers, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, turning around the dedication is the question. That's the bit that I'm thinking, it's harder. It's like we've not won hearts and minds.
I mean, I've seen
What were we
cases in the
doing
past
had we
where,
done anything to win hearts and minds? So going back to that extra little formula and those kind of things, and how do we actually really engage the people and the guys on the ground and gave them every single thing that we could do? And are we willing to do that?
yeah,
So yeah, it's a great question. It depends a little bit on the context. If it was kind of never there, it could have been like you were saying earlier. Gav was like, "Oh, I've made a bad selection here.
yeah,
My
yeah,
bad. Yeah, this
yeah,
was never going to work. I shouldn't
touched
have
it.
done that. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen one who in the past, or I've seen a couple who in the past, where the owner has realized, like, after I've come in and said to them, look, guys, we have to release, we have to talk, that kind of threatening, we have to talk, where he's actually realized that actually he's taken his eye off the ball a bit, and that things have kind of drifted away from the way that he actually wanted them to have, maybe because he's had private stuff going on and he's been more focused on, I don't know, something going on with his parents or some kind of family issues. And then suddenly things pick up again because realistically speaking, it was a good partner, but you know, sometimes stuff happens. But often it's not really that easy to turn things around, I would say, or not on a long-term basis. Sometimes temporarily you can improve things, but depends. If the basics are not there, it's hard.
I think it is. But what you were saying there did just remind me of another example that I had where stuff wasn't quite right. Yeah, they weren't dedicated. They weren't really trying to do what we were both aligned to, or supposedly aligned to. I mean, I was probably a little bit naive and I was younger at the time. I think now I'd hopefully worked out there was something else going on. Now you thought it could be something, it could be health, it could be a partner, it could be their spouse or
Yeah.
whatever. This was because of the relationship they had with another company. Yeah, which I
Right.
probably too young to spot and work out. So there's probably something else going on that's affecting that dedication. Now, is it something like, yes, actually, they go to this other company's villa every summer because they're that matey with them? That was what the case was. So, okay, I
Yeah.
had no chance of turning that around. Yeah, or
You don't have a
actually,
villa?
I've got a really ill son. My brain's not in the game at the moment. Well, that's totally different. I can see you wouldn't be dedicated to anything.
Yeah.
You don't need me hassling you. Let me back off the gas. The others will probably still be jumping around. And when things get sorted, who are you going to come back to as the person who is kindest and most helpful with you? So it's kind of look what's affecting that dedication, what's behind it.
Yeah.
I guess would be the questions you need to ask.
And I think it's also that question of making sure that you do invest time in the personal level of the relationship as well. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to talk about all of the details of somebody's private life, but that somebody feels that they can trust you at least to say, look, I've got some stuff going on at the moment. Please don't misunderstand it, but I have to focus away from your business for a couple of months. And, you know, that level of trust at least needs to be there if you're going to have that kind of long-term partnership, I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on that. And I can also, there's some examples, can't really give them, but where that's been the case, and we've done stuff to help. It's like you
Yep.
end up kind of
Yep.
helping a fellow human being, helping a mate.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
calls and even a visit once was nothing to do with the business. It's to
Yep.
do with the person, and
Yep.
and 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 that wasn't done to be repaid. That wasn't why it was. It was just by being a decent person.
Yes.
But funnily enough, guess what? It was repaid in spades. So yeah,
Yep.
it's kind of understand what's behind it.
Yeah. Once upon a time, I actually probably thoroughly illegally, but it wasn't intentionally, bought a set of chemotherapy drugs in Bulgaria, which were available OTC in Bulgaria, brought them in a little freezer bag back to Austria to keep them at the right temperature, had them in my fridge for a week, and I was like, hopefully nothing happens to them, and then handed them over to a representative of a business partner in an Eastern European country, not in the EU, whose country had revoked the registration license on whatever medication it was that the owner's child needed for their cancer treatment.
Wow. I could talk about going the
And
extra mile. I'm not sure I've told that story on a recorded feed, but no, but that is so cool.
no names involved, and it was a very long time ago. It was before Bulgaria was in the EU, but
So, statute of limitations, we're good.
and
No, that's amazing. Yeah, and that's exactly the kind of thing that I'm talking about. That's such a good. That's a great story. Love it. Love it. It's made you think about that a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'd forgotten about that. But hey, those are the things that happen. So maybe just pulling back a little bit, if an export sales manager, they're playing this really important bridging role to satisfy, on the one hand, the demands of their channel partner, to balance those with the ones that the company has. It's more than just doing a domestic sales role, because you've got to be aware of so many other areas. Like, you've got to know about the logistics, you've got to talk about registrations and marketing and stuff. It's not so purely sales focused. So I always feel like, at least in international sales, the partnership kind of skills are an even more important side of the skill set than they are in domestic sales, simply because you need to cover a wider range of skills. It's that's maybe the wrong way of formulating the question.
No, I know what you
It's
mean. So for me, partnership skills are PQ. Those 6
yeah,
elements, and that goes across the board. But that's just because how I define it, because
yeah,
that's what's in your book. So I'm sticking with that, tar. But I know what you're saying. And there was a Harvard Business Review article on this, saying that an international challenge manager probably has to be the most multifaceted and the most skilled person, because they have that many things, that many hats that they have to wear.
yeah,
Yes, they have to be able to sit and have a sales conversation, as would any salesperson. But yeah, they've got to understand kind of cultural nuances. We've said that already. Yeah,
yeah,
laws. They've got to be able to pick up on the kind of some business elements that often a salesperson might not have to, because they are making the business agreement.
Yes.
Um, I'll try and dig out the link to that. It's a few years ago now, but it was brilliant when it listed out all these different things. Basically, they were saying, just don't give this sort of job to somebody who's about to retire as like a little treat so they can sort of go traveling, or somebody
No.
who's about to be out out the business with special projects, or just someone that, for whatever reason you picked. Really pick the right person who's got all of these abilities,
Hmm.
and are able to kind of adapt and flex and pick up the problem, firefight,
And who has the
keep
energy?
them calm, and energy. Oh, I mean, yeah, jumping on and off planes sounds pretty sexy, but when you're doing it, you're away for a couple of weeks. I mean, I was mainly around Europe, but yeah, if I was doing Scandinavia, it's Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. So it's
Hmm.
2 days in each. It's going out in each. It's talking to the MD in each. It's talking to sales teams in each.
It's a
You know,
full-on day. It's not just a 9 to 5 and then you go and have a nice dinner, because even if you go for a nice dinner, then it's still a business meeting. It's not completely relaxed, however good your relationship is with that person that you're having dinner with.
yeah,
It's still.
yeah, yeah. But it's all those things that you might have to do, and yeah, there's always a bit of leeway, isn't it? Well, leave it with me, and I'll get it sorted. But if that's for every single thing, it's like, well, what's the point of you even doing this job if you can't sort anything? So
No.
if you can't sort anything because A, you've not got the ability,
Hmm.
B, you've not got the power, you've not got the sort of the
Hmm.
backing of the company to be able to make those decisions there and then, it becomes pretty pointless.
Yeah.
So
And I
yeah,
mean, that's in Europe, where you just sit and say, okay, that can be quite technical. But I mean, at least when I started out, and probably when you started out as well, you didn't necessarily have a mobile phone, or you certainly didn't have a mobile phone in my case. So, if you went to somewhere that was a developing country, if you were somewhere in Africa, you had to book a phone call in the hotel, and they would say to you, you can have a phone call on Thursday at this time. From the telecom, and you would be hoping that there wouldn't be a power cut at that time, so that you actually could make your phone call back to the office. And so you were much more left to your own devices, and it was much more the case of you had to know what to do. Or if even now, if you're on the other side of the world, you can't rely on, let me just call the office and ask the specialist department about that product. You've got to be able to answer 85% or 90% of the questions yourself, haven't you?
yeah,
If you're the one
yeah.
who's the country manager.
Product question, yeah, so technical stuff, a business question, logistics question, supply, but sales ordering process stuff. I mean, all that. Yeah, yeah, you're making me think back a hell of a lot now. I know I had because I was about 25 when I first got this job.
Hmm.
So it was fairly quick. So I had a couple of years in the company, and then kind of got promoted into the business development manager role. I was doing other things. So, but it was not baptism of fire, but speed to competence was fairly fast. I had to learn a
Yeah.
lot about business quickly,
Yeah.
which was totally different to all the stuff I'd just spent 4 years at Birmingham Uni learning. Totally
Yes.
different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I did a lot of stuff at the beginning. The company had just been bought out by a French big defense conglomerate. And they were reeling with all of the cultural aspects of it, because there was nobody in the company before I joined who spoke French. So, or who spoke more than kind of, quick and dirty, let's have lunch kind of French. There was nobody who could talk about the product or about business. So that was a kind of shock for everybody all around as to getting into that, because technical product, and I was dealing with the markets. I had a lot of seemingly exotic markets that had dubious economic situations, let's say.
Interesting. Because there's also you can deal with it, and in some ways it's quite flattering. It's like, yeah, you're good at this stuff. Off you go and do that. So can't I just have a diesel car? Give me something a little bit easier, please.
French-speaking Africa and the places that your boss didn't want to go. Those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know that you work, or you have worked in the past with the value framework. Maybe you can explain a little bit about how can anybody who's listening, who's maybe starting out in their international business language, how can they become a little bit more aware about their own PQ abilities, and what kind of steps can they take to improve those?
Okay, so PQ, what we could actually, I wrote a post about this yesterday on LinkedIn.
We can link that to
link
into the
that
comments afterwards.
and
Yeah.
link that, and in the comments of that, this is a convoluted answer, isn't it? There is that you can go through to a PQ score, and you can do a little test. It'll give you your
Right.
PQ. It'll measure you on those elements that I talked about. The value framework is something that I developed. That's the stuff in the red book, where that's what brings PQ on one side, together with kind of sales best practice and kind of how sales has evolved and all the good stuff that's gone on before, and binning the stuff that doesn't really work now, and wrapping that together in a way in which a salesperson can apply that. And so the V stands for validate.
Yep.
And so validate is all about finding the right kind of opportunities. Yeah, so it's qualification in many terms, but sort of understanding, what's the ICP, where do we find them, looking and checking that it is even worth our while in doing anything about this.
Yep.
Because
and that's
then
doubly important internationally, where the costs are running at a much higher level than they would be on a pure domestic sale, I would say.
Yeah, well, you might not even be going international, because what I'm going to say next in the A line is this is then now doing the right research. So it's getting down and understanding about the people, about the organizations, about all the opportunities, about you're going to invest some time and effort in this. Yeah. Chat GPT or not, you're still going to have to do some stuff, and you've got to make a decision. The most valuable resource you have is your time. Also, you need that information to be able to start to put stuff together to say, hey, look, this is where I think we can work together to add to create value with you for your customers. So that research part is really important. We need it to go into the L for leverage, because that's basically leveraging all that information into an intelligent conversation. Yeah, so at some stage, rubber's going to hit the road. We are going to be sitting, talking together, and you're going to have those sales skills to be able to manage that meeting, and all the questioning and listening and all that good stuff.
Yep.
At this stage, it could then well be that we start to underpin. So start to build a proposal, put together our package, start to show what, from a partnership point of view, that would look like. Put the presentations together and prove, support, that's what underpin means, that the way in which we could work together makes sense. Now, that could then lead into period of negotiation or agreement to make sure that we go into eat for evolve, which is okay, it's just started now, because we've got to make sure that you get the outcomes and that we get the results that we've bothered setting this whole thing up for.
Yeah.
And so that's what the value framework does. Validate, align, leverage, underpin, evolve. Make sure that you kind of bring in all that partnering, because the partnering skills is baked into it, and then all the other good sales stuff out there. Make sure that happens, and that's sort of just the way that I would help people to step through and make sure they're doing the right thing, right time.
Yeah, and I think that people have to also remember that signing, especially when we're talking about export channel sales, signing that agreement or that first order is literally, it's maybe not step 1, but it's only step 2 or 3. It is not step 25. You've still got to maintain that relationship and build on that relationship if you want it to be something that that offers strong sales for your company in the next 5 or 10 years, or maybe even longer beyond that, depending on the product.
Yeah, it's only just begun, hasn't it? So closing, you've got closing sales word. We're gaining commitment. If you're gaining commitment to work together to then get this stuff and to get the show on the road, and now we're really going to make it happen. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's how that particular framework would help somebody who's kind of
Yeah.
looking at doing it. It works in most environments.
Mm. And actually, I've often found that within export sales, that often the salespeople don't actually have any sales background or sales training at all. So they're often coming from more of a marketing background, because that brings them or a technical background, which brings them some of the other skills that they need, because people don't always, how should I say, they don't always appreciate sales as a profession.
Hmm.
And so they just think more or less anybody who's, who's rhetorically skilled can do it, rather than seeing that maybe it's something that it takes a very specific skill set in order to do well. And that there are many things that you can learn to do to a certain level of competence, but to do it really well, you've got to enjoy doing it, and that you've also got to be invested in your own improvement and progress and so on. And that is not just I've ticked the box, let's get on with it. That is an ongoing process that's never going to stop.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. It's like, oh, they're really good at explaining stuff technically, or they've got all the marketing thing, and they're very good at presentations.
Yeah.
Sending people out who are good at presentations is probably the worst thing you could do. Yeah. No research, no listening, no asking
Yes.
decent questions, no really getting the skin, no challenging, no pushing back.
Mm-hmm.
Just let me tell you all about ourselves. Oh, you're really interesting. We'd love to work with you. Why? Because there's a co-op budget. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. We see
Yeah.
that. We do see that.
It's sometimes quite interesting to see how, like, if you're a little fly on the wall, then it's quite interesting to see how sometimes companies are working, and how they think that they're actually really dedicated to export, but actually when you look at it, then they have a department, but the department ticks a box somehow to a certain extent, and they like having the positives. They like being able to say we're selling on 3 continents in 25 different countries and so on, but they're not really international in their mindset or their way of doing business. That's something I come across quite often, to be honest.
It's almost like the ego thing, rather than we've sold as much as we can here.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. No, it's the ego thing, isn't it? We've sold as much as we can here. There is a whole new world out there that we can really start to do stuff, but we
Yes.
have to be set up to do it right, and that's
Yeah.
the point. It's usually not the same as the home market. um, you might start with ones which are a little bit more similar,
Yeah.
but still, they are going to be different. So yeah.
And it depends where you are, doesn't it? I mean, if you're an Austrian company, then Germany is kind of the obvious place to start for a lot of companies, simply because the written language is very similar and the regulations are very similar, all that kind of thing. But for a lot of, it might not be the right place for your product.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, it's fascinating. I was just thinking when you say that. Yeah, so for British company, yeah, Australia. About as
Just
far
round the
away as you
corner
can
then.
get.
Just round the corner then. Although there is a post-Brexit free trade agreement in place. I mean,
Well, there we go. We've done that one well.
I suppose Ireland is also a potential market, but again, it's not the same.
It's not the same. The time recording, I mean, this morning, I think, or was it yesterday afternoon, there's been an agreement, hasn't there, between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland in something to do with borders. I've not even had a chance to look at it properly, what that all meant. I just heard
I
it on the
spent
radio on the
yesterday
way back
writing
from
a blog
finishing.
post on this topic, so
Oh,
but
okay.
not on
Well,
the Northern Ireland aspect of it specifically. On the rest, I haven't looked at Northern Ireland because that just kind of tends to blow my brain.
it's an interesting one.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't think they know quite how to square the circle yet. It's
I think from the, because it was about the import-export border, wasn't it? On
yes,
the same literal island, there are different markets, and you could just drive along the road, and what's going to happen there then? So I think they sorted it. I say I've not even had time to get my head around the news, but I heard something. Brain half asleep this morning. That's
yeah.
sorted. So yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating world of doing
Indeed it
business.
is.
Yeah, I love it.
Although, having said that, we are coming a little bit to the end. So I want to ask you, which is one of my last questions, knowing what you do now, what advice would you give to your younger self starting out on this exciting international journey that you're on, or that you've been on?
Probably we go enjoy it more.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not really sure I could. I mean, I've really had a brilliant time. I think, I mean, as I said already, you know, I did get involved very, very early. It was my first job, and then when I got that business development manager role, again, I was still 25, 26. So, and then I sort of played off instinct a little bit, knowing what I know now, that if you have a model, if you have a framework, it would have made my life a lot easier, because then I could have said, right, here's a blueprint, here's what we do, here's how we go about it, rather than sort of doing the same thing every time and feeling my way around that. I'd be like, right, bang, there we go, we do this.
Yeah.
And I got it in a book earlier as well. Yeah, I mean, people have asked me that before, and yeah, I wish I'd written the book earlier. I know it's slightly different, it's not channel sales, but you know, in the first training job, my boss, he said, "Oh, Fred, you should be writing a book." Well, I didn't really listen to him because I was messing about playing rugby and doing all those sorts of things. But yeah, the other thing I'd do is I'd invent the iPhone so I could have more selfies, or at least I tell you what, I would take more photos so I could be using them now on LinkedIn.
Oh yes, take more photos during. If I look back and think, somewhere there are photos that I took in all these kind of weird and wonderful places, but they're obviously all on film.
Yeah, but take your camera, because it would have been a camera, then turn it around. People will think, what on earth are you doing? But you will like this in the future. You'll
Yes,
see the value.
your future self will be grateful.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Finally, sorry, I'm still getting slightly disturbed by this continuous echo that I'm hearing back to me. I hear everything back to me double, and it's a little bit disconcerting. Which kind of services do you offer? Maybe just to close things up a bit, tell people exactly what it is that you do mostly now. Who should reach out to you if they're inspired by the kind of discussion we've had today?
Well, I train salespeople.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So sales teams, I would work with them to get them better. So it's using that value framework. So if you are a channel manager and you have distributors, then the distributor sales team, let me at them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me work with you to set an academy up so that you can then offer that as part of your value prop. So that saying, hey, look, you could send 2 people from Belgium, 2 from Holland, 2 from Ireland, 2 from Australia, wherever. That becomes part of being an interesting facet of working with you, that we will get your salespeople trained well, because that's how I tend to work with. I tend to do more direct now. But I still do love talking about and work. I have done that for a couple of people actually, so it's still in channel world. I can't let it go 100%.
I was going to say, I think it's one of those things that it's very hard to let go, even if you're often doing a lot of other things and times, simply because you can have so much fun in international sales, I think.
I can be your international sales training department. That's who I am. There we go. Repositioned.
Yep. Okay. Well, Fred, thank you so much. There are a couple of other questions in the comments, but I think they might just explode our time frame for today. So I think maybe we can both go back and have a quick look at the comments. Joe Cuvelier has got a couple of questions in the comments that I think would take a little bit longer to answer. Thank you very, very much for taking the time to chat with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I will look forward to our next chat.
Yeah, definitely. No, thank you so much for inviting me. I've really enjoyed it.